Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Today's workshop is on OPT, Optional Practical Training. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about what is OPT, the types of OPT, the eligibility requirements of OPT, what are the rules and regulations of OPT, the timeline to apply for OPT, how to apply for OPT. Once you get approved, what responsibilities do you have? And if you want to travel while you're on OPT, what you can do, and what happens at the end of your OPT. We will also share some resources, both inside PCC and outside. And if you have questions, feel free to interrupt me anytime during the presentation, and then we will address your questions right away. If you feel more comfortable typing the questions in the chat, feel free to do so as well. Ms. Sandra and Ms. Rosa will let me know when there's a question. So we start with a quote. It says, "Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I remember. Involve me and I learn." This is a very good quote, as you can see, right? When we do something hands-on, we actually learn it faster than just plainly listening to someone telling us about it. So again, don't be afraid to speak up, ask questions anytime. So what is OPT? So OPT stands for Optional Practical Training. It is a temporary employment that you can engage in after or even during your studies at PCC. It's a way to practice what you have learned. So for this OPT, since it's a training, it must be directly related to your major. For example, if you are in business major, then you have to find a job that involves business. If you are a nursing student, then of course you can intern at a hospital, right, at a clinic. That will be directly related to your major field. So whatever job you choose, it must be directly related to your major. That's very important. So OPT is also available during and after your studies. When you're doing OPT during your study, it's called pre-completion OPT. When you're doing OPT afterwards, it's called post-completion OPT, and we will discuss the difference in a little bit. So OPT is also recommended by a designated school official, which is one of us, either myself, Ms. Rosa, or Michael at ISC. And after we recommend the OPT for you, you also have to apply with USCIS, U.S. Citizens Immigration Services, for approval. So we can recommend you, but we don't have the authority to approve you. So this is something that you have to wait for the government to approve you or give you a decision on your application. And post-completion OPT is authorized at 1 year per degree level. That means if you have already used your OPT opportunities after completing your associate degree and you want to do another associate degree, you no longer are eligible for OPT again. But if you move up to a bachelor's level after completing your bachelor's degree, you are eligible to have another chance to work. So as I mentioned earlier, there are two types, or actually many types of OPT. We have the pre-completion OPT, post-completion OPT, STEM OPT, and GAP extension. But for us, most of the students actually apply for the post-completion OPT, meaning after they get their associate degree, then they will ask to see if they have a chance to do an appointment for 1 year. I see two questions in the chat. Oh, okay. No, we don't. Okay. So here are some of the OPT eligibilities. They're the requirements for it. For this, you must have been enrolled in a full course of study at least one academic year. So complete fall semester and complete a spring semester inside the US with an active I-20. And you must have maintained your F1 status. That means you do not go out of status. Your F1 is active and it's valid. You must not have occurred 12 months of full-time curricular practical training. So if you have done CPT full-time for 12 months, you're no longer eligible for OPT. And most of our students don't have to worry about this. And this is something that needs to be authorized by the US government, USCIS. And this must have not been previously authorized for OPT at the current or higher level. This part means not only you're not allowed to have 2 OPT for each associate level, right? You cannot have, for example, you have associate degree for math. After that, you get employment for OPT, you get approved. Then after you finish that OPT, you're like, oh, I want to do another associate degree in education. Sorry to say that you're not going to be eligible for OPT again for the education degree because you already used it at associate level. And similarly, if you have completed, like say, accounting at the bachelor level and you did an OPT, and then you went down to associate degree and you completed music, and you ask us to recommend you for OPT, unfortunately, we cannot because you do not eligible if you go downward, right? Yes, Ms. Rosa.
We have a question.
Okay.
With the STEM major, after associate degree, I will have 1 year for OPT and 2 years for OPT after I get a bachelor degree, right?
That's not correct. So OPT is only for 1 year at a time. And for us at the associate degree level, we don't do STEM OPT at all. STEM OPT starts at the bachelor level. When you apply, I'm not too familiar with STEM OPT, but when you apply, you can choose the STEM OPT and you do get a chance to extend that later on. But again, because we only do the regular OPT here, I am not too familiar with STEM OPT, so I don't want to give you the wrong answer, but you do not get 2 years right away.
We usually recommend once you're ready to finish your bachelor degree, you're going to be working with your advisor at the university level, making sure that the STEM major does qualify you to extend for a longer period of 1 year. So yes, right now at the associate level, you get only 1 year. You transfer to earn your bachelor. When you're ready to apply for OPT, you're going to be working with the advisor at the university. You apply for 1 year and then you extend based on if you meet the requirements. But yeah, you'll work with the advisor at the university level. Thank you for your question.
Okay. So again, post-completion OPT means that you have earned an associate degree for your eligibility, right? If you just completed your transfer requirements that do not qualify you for OPT, on your school record, it has to show that you have earned an associate degree in order for you to apply for OPT. You're welcome. Feel free to ask any questions anytime, okay? Type in the chat, unmute yourself. Okay. So we have, here's a little chart of the similarities between the pre and post completion OPT. So for both, right, the training must be in the field of your study. If you are a math major, the job must be related to math. If you are a nursing major, it must be related to nursing. If you are a music major, it has to relate to the music major. You cannot ask for a job. For example, you got a job as a server at a restaurant, but your major is physics, right? It doesn't make sense. The server at a restaurant has nothing to do with physics. If you put that on your application, the adjudicator will look at it and go, hey, what is going on, right? And most likely you will not be approved. So make sure everything aligns with each other. That's very important. So at the time of application, you do not need to have a job. So for both pre and post, you can apply first, then find a job later. And this has to be recommended by one of us, by an education advisor. Again, that will be Rosa, Michael, and myself. And all of the applications for OPT, whether it's pre or post, it must be adjudicated and authorized by USCIS. Your employment may include paid, and you can have multiple employers. It could be short-term, right? You can also do self-employment, or you can be employment through an agency or multiple employers. If you have OPT at a higher level, you will not be eligible to apply at a lower level or the same degree. So that's very important. Please remember that. And the chart underneath represents. Okay, now the differences between the pre and the post completion OPT. For the application date, for the pre-completion, you can apply 90 days before reaching the 1 year of academic study as a full-time student. But for the post, you can apply 90 days before you complete the associate degree, or 60 days after you have earned your degree. For the pre-completion, you can work during your study. Post means you can work after you have received your associate degree. For pre-completion, it will be part-time, whereas post-completion, it will be full-time. The unemployment restrictions, if you're doing pre, there's no restriction on that. But if you're doing post, you must find a job within 90 days of being approved by USCIS. That's very important. If you do not, under the student portal that you will have later on after you get approved, it will have like a clock telling you, you're using more than 19 days, and that's not good, right? So make sure you look for a job and get hired within 90 days after you get approved. So something to be aware of, if you have pre-completion OPT, it will count toward your 12 months of the post-OPT. Now, if you completed pre-OPT, the time for the post-OPT will be shortened. Any questions so far? Okay, let's move on. So the rules and regulations, we emphasize this many times. Your work must be directly related to the major field of study that shows on your OPT, right? If you look at your OPT, on the first page, it will show what major you are studying, and that will be the major that's going to be related to the work or the job that you're going to find. And students may remain in the US and maintain status while OPT application is being processed. This means if you are applying and then you already completed your studies, you still can stay in the US legally while you wait for the application decision. However, you cannot start work until you receive the EAD card. It's called Employment Authorization Document. It's a card that you get that indicates what time and date, not time, but dates that you can work. Yes, Ms. Rosa.
We have a question. Can I decide the start date of my EAD card? Does that mean I will have 60 plus 90 days after I graduate to find a job?
Okay, I see your question. We do have a recommended OPT start and end date for you. And we calculate the days for the interest of the students, right? We give the longest allowed time for USCIS to use to adjudicate your application. And the later time is 1 year. That we have no control, right? We recommend a start and end date, but that doesn't mean that that's the date you're going to get on your card. It's also up to the adjudicator to actually set a date for you. We can recommend it, but the actual date might differ. So if you think of the 60 plus 90, I understand where you're coming from, yes and no. I will keep in mind that you only have 90 days of unemployment allowance after you get approved. The 60 days, yes, you can apply 60 days before graduation and start looking for a job. That doesn't hurt you. That will actually be better. So you give yourself longer, like you said, 60 plus 90 days, right? You give yourself longer time to find a job. Yes, that's recommended that you start looking for a job right away. You do not look for a job after you get approved, right? That kind of shortens your time of looking for a job. Does it make sense? Did I answer your question, Irene? Okay. Okay, perfect. Okay. Ms. Rosa, feel free to jump in if I missed anything, if anything you want to add.
You're good. Mhm.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes. Sure.
So, for the STEM major, like after the university, I will have like 2 years or only 1 year for the OPT.
So again, for STEM OPT, because we don't have any students at the associate level for STEM OPT, we are not 100% familiar with the steps to apply for the STEM OPT. That is
Yes.
something that you should discuss with your university once you get into the university of your choice. And you can inquire the advisors over there and ask them more about the STEM OPT. But to my knowledge, I do not believe you get the 2 years right away. You have to apply for the extension at a later time. So you apply a regular time period first for the STEM OPT. Then at a later time, you have to check to see whether you are allowed the extension. If you are, then you can apply for the extension. But again,
Okay.
right, it's better to,
Yes.
better to talk to the advisors at the university level for more detailed process on that.
No, because actually I have like wrong information about that. I just want to confirm that is it right or wrong or not.
Okay,
So-
is it more clear now?
Yeah, I'm clear now. So
Okay,
actually I get the associate degree in BCC for physics or something. So I can apply for OPT later for the associate degree, right? Or I have to like you said, you don't have like for STEM major for that.
right, we
The
don't have
OPT.
STEM major. Correct, we
Okay.
don't have STEM OPT at associate level. And for your application, remember there's a deadline to apply. If you miss the deadline, then you cannot be qualified anymore. So there is a deadline. Remember the 90 days before or 60 days after the graduation date. You have to apply within that window and have your application be actually arrived at the adjudicator's desk within that time frame. If you miss the deadline, you will not be eligible.
Okay, I got it. Thank you so much.
Okay. You're welcome. All right.
And
Yes.
actually, when I find the recording of your workshop,
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. So at the end of our workshop, this is recorded. We'll process the video and put it on our YouTube channel. We will send you the link to the YouTube channel once it is ready for viewing.
all right, thank you.
Sure. Okay. All right. So the last part of the rule and regulation of OPT is post-OPT must be full-time. This means you have to work at least 20 hours or more each week. Okay. Now, employment include a variety of employment style, right? It can be paid. You can have multiple employers, meaning that one employer you can work for 10 hours, and the second one you can work for another 10 hours to make up the 20, right? It can also be short term. For example, your employer A will only let you work for 2 months at full time, right? Then that means before your full time ends after the 2 months, you should find another job to connect, right? So you don't have a gap. So there's no unemployment time during your transition. And you can also be self-employed as well. Again, after you received your approval notice, if you do not have a job yet, make sure you do not go 90 days of not having a job after the approval date. And earlier I mentioned about the student portal. This is required for you to create one after you get approved. And in this SEVP portal, you will enter your work information. When you started, the name of your employee, name of your employer, and then the address, the contact person, the phone number, and a description of the job, how that relates to your major, right? So we circle back to the beginning. Why is it very important that you find a job that relates to your major? You have to explain that to the government on your portal. That's required. And anytime you make a change, please let us know so we can report you properly and then keep your record clean. So here's the timeline. So if you look at it, for the spring semester, if you look at the little chart on the bottom for this semester, right, we have our session dates. The first day of class was February 16th. The last day of the semester is June 14th. So that means you can apply during March 16th through August 13th. Right, and then you can work between June 15th and August 12th. And then on the I-20, the OPT I-20, we will put the recommendation date of this, A10 to A9. Any questions about this so far? Do we have any questions in the chat? No? Okay. All right. Again, this presentation will also be emailed to you all, so you can refer back to it anytime. Okay, so how do you apply for your OPT? First, you meet with an academic counselor. You file for graduation, but remember, because you have to have an associate degree posted on your account in order to be eligible for OPT. And it doesn't have to be posted if you are applying 90 days before, but you have to have filed for graduation. And you have to request the OPT recommendation. First part you will fill out by yourself. Second part will be recommended by the academic counselor. They will sign off. Then you start preparing all the documents. You will have an OPT packet. You can access that on our website. You complete all the forms and prepare all the required documents. There will be a checklist in this OPT packet that you can refer to. And then you will meet with one of us. You can ask questions, submit your request. We will help you by reviewing your application, check to make sure that you have entered all the information correct. And we do that as a courtesy, right? Not everybody does it, but for PCC, we actually do help our students fill it out. And of course, we ask you to double check as well on your own, right? Not only we check, but you check as well. So make sure there's no mistakes before you mail it out to the USCIS. Any questions so far? Okay. So some important things to remember about the OPT application. The earliest day you can apply is 90 days prior to the program graduation date. So 90 days before June 14th for spring 2021. And then, as I mentioned, USCIS must receive, right? That means your application must arrive at USCIS within 60 days after June 14th for this semester, okay? Now, if we issue you an I-20, your I-20 must be mailed within 30 days. That means they must receive it before the 30 days end. For example, if we signed your I-20, the I-20 signature date, May 1st, right? That means before May 30th, USCIS must receive it. Otherwise, it's not going to be good. Does it make sense? This part can be a little bit confusing sometimes. Any questions so far? Okay. In USCIS, usually the processing time for OPT is 3 to 5 months. But with the current situation going on, we are looking for even longer, 6, 7, 8 months. We have no say of when you will have a decision. I believe there's actually one application that has been waiting for, I don't know, almost an year. So we really have no control. We can do everything to prepare, to help you prepare, and then mail it out. But after that, it's a waiting game. So it's important that you also send us your notice form after you receive the receipt notice from USCIS. Let us know so we can help you monitor as well. So here is OPT application checklist. All of this information will be on the OPT packet as well. We'll take a few minutes to look at this. And let me know if you have any questions. Okay, shall we move on? Okay, now payment methods. There are 2 payment methods. You can either write a check to U.S. Department of Homeland Security or use a credit card. So you need to complete Form G1450 and pay online. Or you can do a check. We actually recommend that you do a check. It's a little bit more secure. Sometimes the credit card bounces, it doesn't go through. If the adjudicator runs the credit card, it doesn't go through once, they probably won't run it again, and your application may be denied because of not payment, right? Because of the failure to pay. But if you do a check, it's a little bit more secure. It will come out from your checking account at a bank, so make sure there are enough money. Make sure you have more than enough. And as you can see the little check right here, you have to spell out the words U.S. Department of Homeland Security. You cannot just write DHS. That's not allowed. And please do not mail cash. Please do not mail cash. They do not like that. Okay, so these are the immigration documents that you need to provide. I-94. It will show when you entered the U.S. last. The stamp, the admission stamp, that's inside your passport. Your passport, make sure it's still valid, and your visa. These 3, besides the I-94, these 3 documents you should be able to have on hand already. I-94 is something that you will get on the government's website. And continuing with your I-20, this is your I-20. Everybody should have this. It will show your IN number, your name. This is the type of OPT you're applying for. If you're doing at the end of your associate degree, it will show post. If you're applying during your study, it will show pre. And respectively, it will say full or part-time. The start and end date, and then you will have to sign it before you mail it out. Okay, we have some tips for completing the I-765 form. We recommend that you download the form directly from the USCIS website to get the most current copy, right? Most current version of the form. Sometimes the form changes. If you use the older copy, they also may deny you. So we recommend you download it directly from their website. Follow the instructions carefully. Type not applicable in/A if the questions do not apply to you. Please use your legal name, the name that shows on your passport. If your name is something more complicated in your home language, but then you have a name, for example, Kathy, right? I cannot use Kathy on my application. I have to use my legal name that is showing on my passport. So be careful with that. Make sure you have a valid address. Your address must be the same as what you have right now. When we apply, right? When we apply, this address must be the same on the government website. So if you have changed or moved, please let us know so we can update that for you. For the post-completion OPT, the eligibility categories, the 3 little brackets, the parentheses that you have to write are C3B. And at the end, you're going to print and sign with blue or black ink. Any questions so far? Anything I need to clarify? Okay. So this is how your Form I-765 looks like. This is page 1. It basically shows you, right, what you need to put. The form is really long. It can be intimidating. You're like, oh goodness, this is so long. But actually, there are many pages you can skip over because it does not apply to you. So don't be scared. Just take 1 page at a time. This is page 2. If you do not have a social security number, you will put yes, I want it. I want one. If you already have it, over here is where you enter your social number. Okay, this is just a sample. And right here, number A and number 9. Most likely this is a no. The A number is not the same as your SEVIS ID number. Okay, so you will put NA. But if you do have an A number, you usually get an A number if you have applied for a different type of status, then you will enter it. But most likely for our students, these 2 questions will be NA. This is page 3, right here, C3B for post-completion. And 28 to 31, you do not have to worry, you can skip it over. It doesn't apply to our students at the associate level. This is page 4, page 5. Don't forget to sign. After you type it out, print it out, and sign by hand. You cannot type or write your name normally. It has to be a signature. Don't forget that. And 6 and 7, most likely, it's not applicable to you, so you can ignore it, leave it blank. And that's the application form. Any questions? Okay. So for mailing the OPT, there are 2 different addresses. If you are using the U.S. Postal Service, USPS, you will mail it to this. If you're using FedEx, UPS, or DHL, you will mail it to a different address here. Ms. Rosa.
Just a friendly reminder, and this is very, very important. Ms. Kathy put it in there, but we want to ensure that your application is received in the right place. So when you are applying, make sure you always check USCIS website for the most up-to-date mailing address. It changes from time to time. And if the application is sent to the wrong address, it's going to delay the processing of the application, and you may be using a lot of the time to process, and we don't know if it's going to be received on time. So always check the mailing address at the time you're mailing your application.
So here is the link, right? Check it before, just to make sure there are no changes in the last minute, right? I would do it a day before you mail it out. I would do it also on the same day. If you were me, I would do it at the post office just to make sure that I'm mailing at the right place. That's just me, right? But whatever you do, make sure you check the address, double check, triple check. Okay, so then after you apply, you will get a receipt notice, and you can check your application online right here. On the receipt notice, you will have a number, a case number, and you will use that case number to check your status. And if you are approved, you will receive an EAD card. So see case status, you enter the receipt number. You will receive a receipt paper once they received your application. And you use that number. That number will be on your receipt notice. You put that number in here, and then you check the status. It will show you. It will have a variety of notification, right? Pending, we received it, we're still processing. Just check back, right? Once a week. And this is how your employment card looks like. It's a nice pink color with your photo here, your name, your birthday, your USCIS number, the category of the card, and then the post-completion OPT. Right, all of the information will be here, and on the bottom are the dates that you are allowed to work. Do not work a day before, and do not work a day after, whatever the card says. That's very important. Okay. Now you're on OPT. Yes, you do not need to take classes anymore. You can work, but hey, there's some things that you need to remember. Health insurance. You have the option of enrolling in our health insurance with GeoBlue. You have to do it within 30 days though. If you miss the 30-day mark, you can no longer enroll. That's correct, right, Ms. Rosa? They have to, yes, you have to enroll within the allowed period. If not, you do not get the PCC insurance anymore. And I believe we actually have a pretty good insurance, so take advantage of it if you want to. Since now you are earning from the US, you have to file taxes. And you can go to the IRS to research a little bit more on what kind of tax you're applying or going to file. If you are working, most likely, but not all the case, most likely you will have a W-2 from the company. If you're doing as a contractor or self-employed, it's most likely you will have a 1099. So check how you need to file and what you need to file with the IRS. You can look at the website just to be sure. Okay, again, all your employment, all the jobs that you're going to get, a few part-time jobs, multiple employers, whatever you have, make sure it relates back to your major, because you have to explain that on your student portal. If you cannot relay it back to your work, and we recommend that you relay it back to your major at least 80%. If it doesn't even make sense that your job or how it relates to your major, it's not a good job. So think about it before you accept the job offer. Make sure you create a SEVP portal account where you document all your employers and their information and the dates that you worked for them. As mentioned here, any employment changes or additions that you have, you will enter it onto the portal. When you have multiple work or you change work, do not delete any of the employers that you already have on your account. Just click the add button and you will have a new section to add new employer. Do not delete anything because that calculates the time that you're working. If you delete, it's going to mess up your employee history. Okay, and remember, you only have 90 days of unemployment allowance after you get approved. So yes, we recommend you start looking for a job right away. So this SEDP portal, you can go through these different websites. It will show you how to create one. If you have trouble, feel free to make an appointment with us. We can also walk you through to apply this as well. Okay? And in the portal, you can add but never delete any employer's information. You can delete, but please do not. Okay, please do not. Okay. And you can work for multiple companies, but they all need to be documented on your portal. Yes, you can travel while you are on OPT. And we recommend, that is traveling after you get approved, right? We recommend that you bring these visa and this information, these documents, to better your chance to get back into the US. Okay, it's really highly recommended that you have all of these when you travel outside of the US. Now, as far as traveling when your OPT is pending, that means you don't have a decision yet. We don't recommend it. It's very risky, especially now, right? There are so many travel bans, and it's so hard to keep track of all of them. So we just recommend you just wait it out. Any questions so far? Okay, anything to add, Ms. Rosa?
Just one thing, we added here that if you're traveling during your OPT after it's been approved, we recommend that you get a letter from your company just as a supporting document. It's not required by the government, but we recommend it because when you're entering the US, you want to prove to the officer that you have a job secure. That will limit your risk of re-entering the US. Because remember, you're still under F1 status and you still have to abide by F1 regulations. So that's recommended, not required, but we strongly, strongly recommend it to have it.
Okay. Okay. So now that you have used your OPT for 1 year, what do? You have 60 days grace period starting from the last date of your EAD card. So if your EAD card ended, say, December 1st, 2021, you have 60 days after that to do something about it. You can either transfer to another US institution, or you can leave the US, go back to your home country, or you can change your visa status if that's what you want. This can get a little bit more complicated. We recommend you work with a lawyer, immigration lawyer with it. But the first two are a little bit more straightforward. Transfer out, that means you let us know what new school you want to go to. You complete the transfer out request form. Give us the admission letter from the school that you want to go to. Then we transfer your record from the US government system that we use, and it goes to the new school. Once we give your information, your I-20 information to the new school, we no longer have access to your record. And if you want to leave the US after OPT, then you will submit the departure notification form. Let us know that you are leaving the US, and we will just terminate your I-20, end it, or complete it. Any questions so far? Okay. So we have some resources here inside PCC. We have the Freeman Center. If you want to do OPT, but you're not sure what kind of jobs that you can get for the major you're studying, go to the Freeman Center. They will work with you. They will explain what options you have with your major. Always talk to an academic counselor, right, about your academic concerns or issues. They can help you kind of direct you to the right path. Maybe you want to change your major. Maybe you want to do something else additional to your major, right? It's always good to talk to them about it. And if you have any questions regarding your F1 visa, your I-20 status, feel free to make an appointment with one of us according to your last name. For me, I have students' last names T through Z, Ms. Rosa has A through J, and Michael has K through S. But if any one of our times don't work for you, feel free to make an appointment with the other two, and they will let us know. For example, if my time is usually Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, 10 to 12. If you have classes during those times, it doesn't work. And Ms. Rosa has a time in the afternoon that works for you. Feel free to make an appointment with Ms. Rosa. She will copy me in that appointment to let me know, hey, you have a student who has a 2 o'clock appointment with me, and I will join in if I don't have any prior meetings during that time. I will come in as well. And some external resources, resources outside of PCC. We have Eureka. Look for the jobs, different kind of jobs. We have the USCIS website. You can look for forms, check your status. And we have Study in the States, which is a really useful website that you can check rules and regulations, watch videos, read blogs about different questions that you may have. We have many events at PCC. Feel free to check our website. You go to our homepage. Right on the homepage, this little event button you click, it will take you to this page. It will show you what kind of events we have for this month. And then you can click on the event that you are interested in and register for it. Up here, it's also a hyperlink. When you get this PDF, you will be able to click and it will take you right to the events page. And stay connected with us. We have many useful information that we post on our social media. We send out many email reminders, not only from the ISO email, our general email account, but also our personal email. So if you're my students, you will be getting emails personally from me as well. If you are Ms. Rosa's student, you will get emails from Rosa periodically or weekly. Thank you for spending this 1 hour with me. Hopefully you have a better idea of what OPT is, how to apply, and the process of applying, having OPT, and what do you do after OPT. Okay, at this time, please unmute yourself. If you have questions, type it in the chat. We're here to answer your questions to the best of our knowledge.
I want to remind everyone here, if you are graduating this spring and are interested in applying for OPT, I will encourage you to reach out already because the application window, it's already open. And like Ms. Kathy said, USCIS is taking a long time to process. So we want to make sure that you submit your application as early as possible to allow enough time to process and make sure you get approved and have the entire year to work. So please reach out to any of us if you're interested in applying so we can start that process with you.
Thank you for asking questions during the presentation as well. Those are very good questions. And we're happy that you're participating. Okay, if there's no further questions, then I will stop sharing my screen.